How petty do you think you are? Because I might have the case of the grandest pettiness you've ever seen. Now, you might have gone to some great lengths to try and exact revenge against some of the people that have wronged you throughout the course of your life. But you have definitely not gone to the lengths that our friend Ryan Burge has gone through. Ryan Burge is a former professional soccer player, footballer, and he's from England. He played at the lower levels of England, but was never really a guy that played at a super high level. He struggled with knee injuries, and really the highest level that he was going to get to was the third or fourth division in England at the time. He is now 35 years old. He's retired. He has been retired since 2017 when he played 5 final matches with Eastleigh. So this is not somebody that reached the highest level of the game. This is somebody with 90 career registered senior appearances, right? Somebody that if you were remembering the history of football or soccer would not be on it, but still accomplished a lot more athletically than the vast majority of us ever will. And in that process, he ended up at a club called Port Vale. Port Vale, at the time that he signed for them, were in League Two. Port Vale had been in League Two since 2008, and it stayed in League Two until 2011-2012, when Ryan Burge was signed by Port Vale for a bit of a transfer fee from Hyde, or I think it was Hyde. It wasn't a huge move, and he actually missed the entire first season with one of those knee injuries. Okay, he went down, he needed surgery, he didn't play for 12 months. But at the start of the 2012 season, Ryan Burge started to play really well. A news article cited in his Wikipedia says he pulled the strings to help Vale control the second half after he made his first appearance in 12 months in a loss to, at that time, championship side Burnley. Over the course of the season, he established himself as a regular presence in the midfield. He ended up playing 30 matches for Port Vale, more matches than he ever played for any other club in his entire career. This is a guy that was not used to being in this type of run, but clearly he was pulling the strings, and they said he was on a string of impressive performances. This was Ryan Burge's coming out party. He was delivering on the goods, and Port Vale was pushing for promotion up to League One, the third division of England, and then the trigger for all of our pettiness. And you needed to understand this to understand why Ryan Burge was acting the way he is acting at the end of this story. Because in the midst of finally finding his stride as a professional and really sticking it to the rest of League Two, making it into the League Two team of the week and that sort of stuff, he missed a team breakfast. Well, I don't know if it was breakfast, but it was a pre-match meal for Port Vale. Now, he claims that he was making his own way to the match against Bristol Rovers instead of traveling with the team, which obviously League Two is kind of the frontier between being a professional team and being a semi-professional team, but it is fully professional, make no mistake about it. But I don't think it sounds ridiculously unreasonable that a player might make their own way to a certain game every once in a while, and that's what he says he was doing when 5 minutes before he got to Bristol, he was informed by the manager, Mickey Adams, that he would not be in the matchday squad because he missed the pre-match team meal. Now, my biggest question going into this, obviously, is how much did my boy Ryan Burge know about this pre-match meal? All right, because that is where all of this starts. Ryan Burge, if he knows about the pre-match meal, he's got no grounds for anything that happens after. Now, if he didn't know about the pre-match meal or it wasn't impressed upon him that manager Mickey Adams was all of a sudden going to freeze him out if he missed this pre-match meal, then that's kind of on the manager and kind of on the club if he thought he would be able to drive to this match. But what happened after is Ryan Burge escalated it. Ryan Burge tweeted his side of the story, basically. After it came out that he wasn't in the match day squad, he tweeted that essentially he thought it was ridiculous and that he was almost at the game when he was told he wasn't in the match day squad, and it was just a giant mess. At which point manager Mickey Adams said that the Twitter thread was absolute nonsense and he is going to be disciplined. And so Burge was disciplined. He was suspended for 2 weeks by the club for violating its social media policy. Now, I want to just give them a shout out for having a social media policy in March of 2013 when Wayne Rooney and every other footballer was tweeting just random shit that popped into their head. Port Vale in League Two already had a policy preventing this sort of thing from happening, and they suspended Burge for 2 weeks. At the end of that suspension, he actually would never play again. The club claimed he refused to apologize for the incident, and then the club and the player terminated his contract by mutual consent. And in the rest of his career, Ryan Burge would only make 39 more official appearances. So this was the end of the golden age for Ryan Burge. But it's hard to overstate how important he actually was, because even though he left the club on mutual consent in April, the club would go on to get promoted, and he was named by a fan site as one of the 3 players of the season. So this guy was hugely influential in getting Port Vale back up into League One. It was the first promotion for Port Vale since 1994 to snap them back into League One. Now, strangely, that's not even the end of this saga. He actually applied to be the manager of Port Vale in 2017. Reuters gives no other information about that, but apparently that's something Ryan Burge was trying to do. I don't know if he was qualified for it or whatever, but at least in 2017, he didn't hate Port Vale enough. But after that, he had his hatred of Port Vale from it basically ending the golden age of his career, and the fact that they didn't hire him as the manager as well, and he just started making fun of Port Vale on Twitter. He started tweeting things like Port Fail and basically rooting on his ops' downfall. Now, once we dove into an article by Football 365, we might be able to uncover why he became so incredibly salty. So, first of all, the further version of events is instead of driving himself to Bristol, he said he was supposed to be picked up at Michael Wood Services somewhere on the way. He said, I never should have been making my own way there, and that's why he was late. And then the first communication he got from the club after they didn't pick him up was that he wasn't needed. And then he also said that Port Vale breached their own non-disclosure clause by further defaming my name by providing poor character references to other clubs and a malicious attempt to put them off signing me. He essentially attributes the entire downfall of the rest of his career after a Player of the Year type season in League Two to Port Vale basically telling every other club that the guy was toxic. He said he believes Vale did this as they were extremely bitter and couldn't let the situation go after he rejected a 2-year contract extension and refused to play for the club again after defaming my name and telling lies about me to the press. To me about the press. I think that's a typo. But this year, Ryan Burge felt like he had the opportunity to pull his greatest stunt yet to make fun of Port Vale and to clown on Port Vale, essentially. And this is where we finally get to the most petty actions of all the petty actions taken in human history. You see, according to reports, Ryan Burge actually got his pilot's license so that he would be able to fly a plane over Port Vale's stadium after their relegation. Now, apparently he wasn't able to get his pilot's license for their first relegation back down to League Two. That happened in 2017. But now that they got promoted back up in 2022, 2 years later, they're headed back down to League Two, and Ryan Burge was not going to miss a second chance. He gets his pilot license, he gets in a plane, and he flies a banner over Port Vale's stadium just to make fun of them for getting relegated. It's amazing. Apparently the banner said, "She stood there laughing, in 40, which is, according to Reuters, referencing rivals Stoke City's anthem Delilah by Tom Jones. So he knows enough about Port Vale and their rivalries, obviously having been there a year, that he's able to come up with like the most singeing, painful thing that he can possibly find, a quote from their rival's song, and just flies it on a banner over the stadium. Now, apparently Stoke City fans were actually involved in this stunt as well, because he posted on Facebook after, "Thank you to the Stoke City fans who paid me to do something I would have happily done for free." Nice. This is an experience I will cherish the rest of my life. Ryan Burge is a professional hater. And he wasn't done there either. He actually went on to describe the flight. A bit of a shaky takeoff, but I put that down to the excitement. However, once I got her up in the sky, it was smooth all the way from there. And shout out to my instructor, Jeff, who was guiding me all the way. This is an experience I will cherish for the rest of my life. Fail Park looks like an even bigger shithole from the sky. Look, I don't know who's on the right side or the wrong side of history here, right? What actually happened on that fateful day in March of 2013, whether he was supposed to be picked up at the service station, whether Port Vale badmouthed him to other clubs, or he really just ended up sucking as a human being. Only the people involved actually know that. But what I do know for sure is that Ryan Burge is an A+ all-star professional hater. This is some impressive hater work right here. This man isn't drinking haterade, he's manufacturing it in a plant the size of Bristol, okay? This guy is all over the place. He's in the sky, for crying out loud. This is what people talk about when they say, don't ever half-ass something. You got to whole-ass everything that you do. Ryan Burge has decided that one of his life missions is to make fun of Port Vale and Retribution as much as possible, and I'll be damned if he is not accomplishing that life mission. By the way, the post includes hashtag inbreds, hashtag no promotions without me, which is not true, but he means no automatic promotions because they got re-promoted to League One through the playoffs, so he still has something to hold over Port Vale. We'll give that to him. And there's the picture. There's the picture of our guy, Ryan Burge, next to the plane with his flight certificate, having flown a plane, instructor in the other seat, over Port Vale upon their relegation. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The depths of the human spirit.